Geek Therapy Radio.
Yep, I think it's time that we talk about the cutie patootie, Baby Yoda. We need to talk about Baby Yoda. Clear some things up, talk about some, controversy where there may not be controversy. I've read a few articles. What triggered this is I read a few articles today on Baby Yoda, just finding out more about Baby Yoda, and what really spurred this was when do Baby Yoda merchandise came out? When can you buy a Baby Yoda doll, basically? Because I think it would make a good Christmas present for here and there, just to have in the old nerd cave. And that got me down the rabbit trail of Baby Yoda controversy and the supposed backlash to Baby Yoda. First of all, you can't really find any backlash against Baby Yoda. And I'll interject right now. I'm going to try my best not to give away any big spoilers of The Mandalorian in case you have not watched it yet or signed up for a Disney Plus account to watch it or have pirated it yet. Anyways, so I'll try my best not to give out too many spoilers. If you just don't want to risk it, I'm going to do some podcast and radio sacrilege and tell you to just hold off on this episode right now, pause, and just stop it and come back to it after you're caught up on The Mandalorian. But I'm going to do countdown 3, 2, 1, and we'll just continue. Again, I might not do any spoilers, but if you just want to be safe, just stop it now and come back. So 3, 2, 1. Back to Baby Yoda. This isn't a spoiler. This isn't a spoiler to say that, and I'm struggling with how to kind of phrase this, because when you read an article that says backlash has already started against Baby Yoda, you're like, okay, well, what? I literally haven't heard any backlash against Baby Yoda. Everything I have seen for the past week or so about Baby Yoda is just adorable memes and, looking up at mom waiting to buy chalky milk at the gas station or whatever the heck. It's all been cute stuff. Who's gonna naysay this? But here's what they mean. Because the word backlash is a very buzzworthy, clickbaity type of title to put on an article, what they really mean is the actually crowd. You know what I'm talking about? The push your glasses up. Actually, Baby Yoda is blah bitty blah. That's not backlash. That's just geeks being geeks. Where I do disagree with it, and perhaps you could call it backlash, is when people are unnecessarily militant about it, insulting plebeians who don't know better otherwise by calling, here's the meat and potatoes of this, by calling Baby Yoda, quote, Baby Yoda, when in fact we don't know enough about this creature yet. But to set the stage in the timeline of Star Wars, The Mandalorian takes place a bit after the return of the Jedi. So Yoda died in that episode. So this is after. The Mandalorian takes place after Yoda has died. So we don't know exactly what this creature is. Is Star Wars pulling off some sort of time travel scheme? We don't know yet. We're only a few episodes into The Mandalorian at this point. We don't know fully yet, but is Star Wars trying to pull off some sort of, the franchise trying to pull off some sort of time travel scheme? I don't think so. I don't personally adhere to that. I don't think it's time travel. If it was, that's fine. I think that Baby Yoda is, I will say, a continuation of the legacy. Here's a little tiny baby spoiler coming up in 3 seconds, even though it's not that big. But 3, 2, 1, this little baby Yoda, quote unquote, did use the Force to help the Mandalorian get an egg, I'll just say. And really, that's not a huge spoiler, other than maybe it is, depending on how you look at it, that this Baby Yoda has used the Force. I don't think it's that big of a spoiler because it looks like the same species of Yoda, so why wouldn't it use the Force? You were waiting for it to use the Force. The whole episode seemed like it was building up to, the main character is getting into these skirmishes and fights, and he's protecting this baby carriage, basically. So you're just waiting for the baby to Force awaken and use the Force in one of these fights. So yes, the episode is leading up to that. If you have never seen The Mandalorian and you're looking at Baby Yoda, you know he's going to use the Force at some point. Like, that's just a given. That is why he's introduced in this series so early on. So it's not a big shocker or a spoiler to say that Baby Yoda, quote unquote, used the Force a little bit in the second episode of The Mandalorian. But back to the fact remaining is that, okay, no, you push up the glasses up the bridge of your nose to let us know that this isn't actually Baby Yoda. Yoda died a few years ago. He was 900 years old or whatever. That's why Baby Yoda's 50 years old. Okay, they established that in the show. They say that right off the bat, Baby Yoda's 50. And everybody knows who's ever watched any Star Wars that Yoda is super old in terms of human years. So it makes complete sense. It's not a shock that Baby Yoda is 50 years old and still a toddler, basically. Baby Yoda hasn't done much in the series. He is basically laid in his little egg-shaped carousel or a baby stroller, and he helped by using a little bit of a Force, which tuckered the little guy out. Took a little nappy poo, and he ate a frog. We simply, as of recording this episode of Geek Therapy Radio, here's a good way to put it, we don't know enough yet to get so butthurt about it. And maybe you are way more well-versed in Star Wars than other people, even me. And I have not made any qualms about the fact that I don't know Star Wars biblically. I don't have an all-encompassing knowledge of the Star Wars franchise, not the Star Wars, you know what I'm saying. I can't tell you exactly where each moment happens in the timeline of Star Wars, but I do know enough about it to where you look like a giant D-bag for insulting people because they have dubbed it arbitrarily Baby Yoda. Actually, it's not Baby Yoda. This is 50 years. This is whatever, how many years after Return of the Jedi, in which Yoda. Well, okay, we get it. We got it. So you're taking issue with the term because the show certainly doesn't call it Baby Yoda. That's a pop culture reference to this character. We have no idea who this character is yet. Really, we don't. Obviously, they're kind of alluding to it. Maybe there's some sort of twist involved here. Who knows? But it's not like, who wrote Star Wars? Favreau, is that his name? It's not like he wrote in there, this is Baby Yoda. No, we've given it the term Baby Yoda. We don't know what it is specifically. So that's one thing. But that's a fun discussion. That's something that, geeks can argue about and talk about and say, well, technically it's not Baby Yoda. We don't know what it is yet. Blah, blah, blah. You can get into other conversations where people are getting upset about assuming it's gender, which I'm not even going to touch with a 10-foot stick here on Geek Therapy Radio right now. It's just people will use anything to turn it into an argument. But there's another point of strife, another point of complaint that people are making, and making arguments where there are no arguments, getting upset where there is no reason to get upset about. And that is what I mentioned earlier, merchandising. I have seen some people just either off the cuff or be truly upset about it, talk about, oh, Disney just introduced this character. Disney just introduced Baby Yoda to sell Baby Yoda products. And your point is what? What about that is shocking or evil or just now upsetting in terms of Star Wars freaking merchandise? When is the last time you've been into a gas station and not seen Star Wars merchandise? How in the heck is, well, it's just Baby Yoda, they're just going to turn it into merchandise and they're just going to create them to sell stuff. Dude, all of Star Wars exists to sell stuff. How is it just now? How is it just now, since Disney bought the franchise a few years ago, since Disney bought Star Wars? Why? Because the mouse is involved now? Now it's some sort of moral issue that they introduce new characters into the franchise and with plans to sell merchandise of those characters? Is it because Disney is this big, evil, corporate conglomerate thing that, oh, well, now it's tainted? They sold Star Wars merch way before Disney got involved. They sold, they sold Jar Jar Binks merchandise. They sold Jar Jar Binks merchandise. I shouldn't even have to say much more than that. And we're talking about introducing characters. Jar Jar Binks was the worst. I don't need to beat that dead horse to think that you see a character in any sort of new Star Wars TV show or movie, and oh well, that's just sometimes they're just throwing back to. It's like they need to remind the audience that this is Star Wars. So what were those little creatures? And this is where my non all-encompassing knowledge of Star Wars really is going to shine here. How much I don't know. For those of you who saw, I think, which episode of The Mandalorian, 1 or 2, this is not a spoiler, but there was that creature on the rotisserie. The creature, it kind of looks like Dobby. You know what I'm talking about, with the big ears and stuff. But it's on the rotisserie, and actually is a low-key, really dark kind of scene where its friend or another of its species is like in the cage watching it. And like, why would you have any animal of any sort of higher knowledge, higher existence, what am I looking for? Higher mental ability, watching while its comrade is being roasted over some flames? Like, why? That was low-key dark. But anyways, people complained about that scene. Oh, as if we forgot we were watching Star Wars. They had to put this little forgettable species in there that you saw in episode whatever. Okay. But that's what we do. That's what we do as geeks, is we do find these things to kind of nitpick on. I do it with my wife all the time and things, and she's just like, are you going to point out all these stupid things in Back to the Future the whole time we're watching it? Or point out every time someone refers to Back to the Future or Star Trek in the wrong way, or they get the quote a little bit wrong? Well, yes, because we're geeks, and that's what we do about geek things, is grammar Nazis do it all the time. I posted something online today in a comment section, and I said, well, I walked in the garage. And yes, as I typed it, I knew in my head, I was like, you know what? I know it's into. I know grammatically the phrase would be, I walked into the garage. I wrote, I walked in the garage. And I just left it there because, you know what? Whatever. I have to go back and edit it. And then it's kind of modern courtesy on the internet to, if you have to edit your post, you have to type in why you edited it, because now posts automatically say on top, edited. Like on YouTube, for instance, if you go back and edit something, it'll say that, YouTube itself will say that this post was edited. So it's common courtesy for you, the author of the post, to explain why you edited it. If you did edit, it's just a cluster. It's a cluster. So I said, you know what? The vast majority of people are going to know what I meant here. So 99% of people won't care that I wrote walked in the garage, as opposed to, yes, the technically grammatically correct walked into the garage. We all get it. We all get it. When I read a post that is not grammatically perfect, but you can tell, the rest of it is structured right. The syntax is correct. The conjugations are correct. Everything is good with it. But they get one little thing wrong. You're like, okay, well, context clues tells me that this person is an intelligent person. They knew about the mistake. They just kind of let it ride because it's an internet comment. Who cares? Still, there are grammar Nazis. I should probably say grammar geeks. We can get into a whole discussion of like geek etiquette. What's a grammar geek and what's a grammar Nazi? A grammar Nazi will go out of their way to reply to a comment, asterisk, into, walked into the garage. Okay, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Can't wait to talk to you at a party. It will be enthralling to hear what you have to say about the world. When things like little grammatical instances drive you up the wall. But we all have pet peeves. Don't walk up to me at a party and ask me about people using turn signals. I'm not going to be very fun at that point, because that's a personal pet peeve. At least I can recognize that that's a pet peeve. And that's where we get into kind of the geek etiquette I'm talking about. The difference between a grammar Nazi and a grammar geek. A grammar Nazi will go out of their way to try to make the person who said the infraction or said something that wasn't grammatically correct, they'll go out of the way, walk across the room of the party. I heard you said who, where actually it's supposed to be whom, with whom you talk to. Thank you, Mabel. Enjoy the rest of your night. How about maybe Shirley Temples from here on out? So that's what a grammar Nazi would be. A grammar geek would be the person that just kind of, they noticed it themselves, but they're not going to interrupt a conversation. Wait, stop. I can't let this go any further. I have to tell you the difference between who and whom. That's called, I guess it boils down to what's called unsolicited advice. There's a lot of people, especially a lot of geeks who overhear people talking about their field of geekdom. And whereas it would be an opportunity to kind of be a great ambassador for your particular brand of geekdom, instead, a lot of us like to interject. Excuse me. Can I just, and then interject some what's called unsolicited advice. And I think that's a social norm that kind of, and I'm getting way off track from the Mandalorian here, or Baby Yoda, but I think that's kind of a social norm that it's a little nuance to being socially acceptable, is where and where not to offer unsolicited advice. Because while it feels like we're doing the other person a favor, like we feel like it's a nice thing to do to give somebody advice, it's not nice to do when that person didn't ask for the advice, no matter how nicely you phrase it or how you approach it. And I mean, this depends on how serious the infraction is, but it depends on how you approach it. Because if you offering somebody unsolicited advice is actually super insulting, even though you don't mean it to be. And I am just as guilty of it. I'm sure I've done it. It's just something that we kind of think about, try to be aware of. But I'm sure I've done it in the past. I'm sure I've done it. I may have done it today and inadvertently not known that I was doing it. So unsolicited advice. So people start sticking their nose out with unsolicited advice on Baby Yoda. You have somebody who's just goo-gooing Baby Yoda, and it pisses you off that they're enjoying the nice thing without knowing the full history behind the nice thing. That's kind of a way to put it. It's kind of like how in across generational gaps, you know, an older generation might not know what Justin Bieber is. I'm dating myself here, but let's say there's a 13-year-old girl. It's 2000 and whenever Justin Bieber was popular, and they just have the posters on the wall of Justin Bieber. They're blasting Justin Bieber on their iPods and whatever. You know, people like that music sucks. South Park did a whole episode on this. That music is just terrible. Justin Bieber sucks. Blah blah blah. What? Can you just let the kids have their nice thing? Just let them have that thing. It's not designed to be your thing. It's just a thing that's not hurting anybody. Yes, you can think it's terrible music. Maybe it is terrible music, but they like that thing for now. They'll like another thing in 5 minutes. Where's it our place to be a curmudgeon and go take a nice thing that people like and then tell them why all the reasons they shouldn't like it? What is the reasoning behind seeing people go goo-goo over Baby Yoda and then trying to ruin their day, ruin their joy by saying, well, it's not actually Yoda. Yoda's actually dead. I can't believe you didn't know that. Return of the Jedi. Mandalorians after Return of the Jedi. Duh. We technically don't know the species as yet. And they just created Baby Yoda, if you want to call him Baby Yoda. Assuming you assume their gender. They just created that thing to sell more merchandise because Disney's a big evil corporation. Just let them have their thing. Just let us have Baby Yoda. Just let Baby Yoda be cute. And let people spend their money on whatever they want to spend their money on. What about that? We'd all be happier if we just let people embrace their geek thing. And sometimes the geek thing is fleeting. I think Baby Yoda's going to be around for a long time. I think Baby Yoda has lasting appeal. It might last 2 years as opposed to 2 months. But I think Baby Yoda is here to stay, just like Luke Skywalker was here to stay, and Han Solo, and Princess Leia, and Jabba the Hutt. I think it's one of those characters that just sticks. Even if it's just in merchandise form, even if it's not such a huge critical piece to the Star Wars saga. The point is, it's just a cute little thing. It's at some point, if you do fall in that camp of people like a thing, I must destroy their joy in that thing. Maybe it's an indicator to take a step back and reevaluate what darkness rests inside of you or us or me when my first gut reaction is to see someone else's joy and then want to take it away. To be angry, for the first reflex to be angry that people like a thing, even something as innocuous as a Star Wars character, something as cute as a quote-unquote Baby Yoda. And I'm reminded of something that adult Yoda actually said. Remember when adult Yoda said, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Yoda said that. So, I've mentioned in the show, and I'll start wrapping it up with this, really. I've mentioned in the show many times prior, maybe not many times, but at least a few times prior, that a good kind of litmus test that I like to try to apply to my own life, and yeah, I mean, you could maybe, okay. It's the more something pisses you off, or like the more something beeps on your radar, the bigger the blip on your radar should basically we should all try, and I try, to retrain my mind and how I respond to that huge stimulation, that huge negative stimulation. How do I respond to that? Our first knee-jerk reaction a lot of the times is to get in there and just be angry about it and just spread our anger and tell everyone why we're angry about it. It does no good. It does no good. The more something pisses you off, it's just my opinion that maybe we should retrain our brain to think, hey, this thing is really pissing me off. I should research this thing more to see why it's doing that. It's like the bigger the red flag, the more kind of a step back it should signal us to take. Oh, a political official said this thing, and I'm just immediately going to go to Twitter. Or some celebrity says something, makes a joke, and I'm going to immediately go to Twitter or whatever. I'm going to try to ruin their career or do whatever. And if it irks you so much, especially if it's something that you're just scrolling through a timeline and you see, oh, that thing pisses me off, and immediately respond to that. Nah. If it really invokes such a strong reaction that your first thing, I got to respond to this, click, 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 click. Maybe just step back from it for a minute and try to think of why it makes you so angry. So I'm not saying that it's not important to voice your opinion of that. First of all, we should know what our opinion is actually worth and manage our expectations of what that opinion is actually worth, or what we think it's worth, personally. But also, there's this kind of little exercise that my parents tried to do with us growing up, and that was, we think we really want a toy. Oh, we see a toy on TV, or we see a toy when we're out shopping or something like that. We need it. We want it now. We need it now. Our whole life is going to end if we don't have it now. My parents tried to get us to do this little exercise. Oh, holy crap, you really want it right now. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. You want it right now. But let's do a little experiment. Write it on a Post-it note, stick it on the refrigerator, and see if you still want it a week later. So I think a lot of the times when we get so angry and upset about something, Baby Yoda or whatever, and we just feel like we need to scream at the world that it's not actually Yoda. Stop calling it Yoda. Yoda's dead. Take that little thought, step back from it. Maybe in a few minutes, come back to it, be like, do I really care about that as much as I thought I did? And I promise you, because I'm a human being living in this world too, experiencing the same things as other human beings, I promise you what pissed you off 5 minutes ago, you probably don't really care about in the next 5 minutes. But you've already put what you're going to say about it on the internet forever when you acted out of that pure emotional reaction. I'm not saying that I absolutely not any better than anybody else in this regard. It's a constant reminder, but I try to remind myself. But I think it's just one of those things that we try to, Facebook, I keep going on tangent. You know that anytime I say I'm wrapping it up, usually means at least several more minutes. Facebook has this horrible, terrible, just horrific feature to it that reminds you of posts you've made like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever like that. And it says, you remember this post you made from 2011 or something? And it's me like taking, or 2010 or whatever. It's like me taking Obama to task on a very nuanced, very multifaceted, very tough political issue. As if at the time, I was so stupid that I thought I just knew everything. There's a term for that. There's an actual psychological term for that. You're just dumb enough to think that you're really smart. And so when I see old posts from Facebook where me taking Obama or anybody else to task on some sort of issue or on Occupy Wall Street or something like that, I'm like, man, that guy was really stupid. Oh, that's me that posted that. Oh boy, I should stop posting so much immediate knee-jerk, unthoughtful reaction to social media. And in a way, I'm thankful that Facebook does that to remind me, yeah, I'm pretty happy that I, at the very least, just took a beat to think about the things that I thought I knew so much about and at least acknowledge that I don't know anything about it, instead of saying I know just enough about it to make a really, at the time, thoughtful point on it. And then through the clarity in 2020 of hindsight, man, that 2010 Johnny was really stupid about that. We all say stupid things. Facebook now reminds us of the stupid things we said. So we just take a step back. If Baby Yoda, if you're one of the people who has a big issue with Baby Yoda, and you think it's just whether you're pissed off about calling it quote unquote Baby Yoda when Yoda's actually dead, or what we know of Yoda's actually dead, or you have take issue of because you're just mad that people are going to spend millions of dollars on lovable, squishable Baby Yoda dolls. Maybe that should be a little reminder to kind of sit back and touch 5 things around us and center ourselves. Take a deep breath. I'm pissed off about a fictional character. Anyways, we got a little ranty on this episode of Geek Therapy Radio, but it's all in good fun. We're talking about Baby Yoda, for God's sake. It's fun. Be good to yourselves and others. And remember that we're all geeks about something, so embrace your geek thing, but don't be a D-bag about it. I don't think I'm going to add that to my official outros. Don't be a D-bag about your geek thing. But yeah, don't be a D-bag about your geek thing. Let others enjoy their geek thing and just have their joy. Don't be so quick to spread your anger, because anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Please know that you're worthy of love, both giving and receiving love. And I'll just see you tomorrow.
Therapy Radio, Saturday night at 10 on KPRC 950. Or listen anytime on our iHeartRadio app.